Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
A brand new order paper response shows that the federal government, the Liberal government, gave 3,200 quarantine exemptions between March 2020 and the end of April 2021. The response also shows it's not what you know or how you feel even, but who you know. Today's information comes to us by way of another order paper question asked by Conservative MP for the Alberta riding of Red Deer Mountain View, Earl Dreeshen. For those careful news watchers, he's also the dad of Alberta Agriculture Minister Devin Dreeshen. Now, Dreeshen asked the government to provide the details of just how many people received ministerial exemptions from quarantine requirements and the reason they were given a special ministerial exemption. Let's get right into these documents. On page 3, we can see that Global Affairs offered exemptions to 762 people, mostly for business mobility and business mobility aerospace, which sounds a lot to me like business mobility Bombardier. Now, wouldn't it be great if the rest of us could go back and forth across the border for the growth of our own businesses? But I guess we just don't donate enough to the Liberal Party of Canada. On page 6, we see that 50 people received exemptions from the Public Health Agency of Canada. To be clear, the agency locking us down and closing the border for science and health cut exemptions for 50 people. Either we follow the science for everybody and it works for everybody, or we follow the science for none, or none of this is even science at all. But again, who you know. On page 8, immigration granted 1,966 exemptions, and most of them went to well-paid NHL millionaires. On page 10, Heritage granted 581 people exemptions for amateur sport. On page 12, Public Safety granted 14 people exemptions, including 5 for union negotiations and 3 for Irving shipbuilding executives. So that's over 3,200 people that were allowed to skip out on the federal government quarantine, while regular Canadian citizens were routinely slapped with escalating fines of up to $5,000 if they didn't want to quarantine in one of Justin Trudeau's rapey COVID jails. Now, we are fighting those COVID jails in court to see our legal filings and to support our lawsuit against the federal government. Please go to nocovidjails.com. At the end of the day, no matter what the politicians and public health officials chant at us in their necromancy sessions to brainwash us on a daily basis, this doesn't actually feel like we're all in this together, does it? For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. While Justin Trudeau and his federal Liberal ministers are cutting quarantine exemptions to their friends and Liberal Party donors, regular Canadian citizens are being fined because they don't want to get forcibly abducted into the COVID jail system. But don't worry, Rebel News is fighting that COVID jail system in court. Please go to nocovidjails.com to fund our David and Goliath battle against the federal government. That's nocovidjails.com.